Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the medical ship Hippocrates, watching the damaged planet Kepler-7 grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green world looked peaceful from space, but Elena knew better. For the past 20 years, two alien races had been tearing each other apart on its surface. The Zalani and the Thrakari had started fighting over mining rights, but now they just fought because they had always been fighting. "Captain, we're getting signals from both sides," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "The Zalani want us to land in their territory first. The Thrakari are demanding we treat their wounded before anyone else." Elena shook her head. "Send the same message to both of them. We treat whoever needs help most, no matter which side they're on. That's what doctors do." The Hippocrates was not a warship. It carried no weapons except small arms for security. Instead, its cargo holds were filled with medical supplies, surgical equipment, and medicine that could save lives. The ship's hull was painted white with large red crosses, the ancient symbol of medical help that even aliens understood. Every few seconds, the ship sent out radio signals telling everyone that it was a hospital ship. Elena had been a doctor before she became a ship captain. She had spent years treating patients in Earth's hospitals before joining the medical corps. She knew that when someone was bleeding, it didn't matter what color their skin was or what language they spoke. Pain was the same everywhere in the galaxy. "Incoming transmission from Kepler-7, Torres announced. "It's from the Zalani government." The main screen changed to show a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. The Zalani looked worried. "Human ship, this is Minister Kralak. We are grateful for your arrival, but you must understand the situation. The Thrakari are animals. They attack our hospitals, our schools. If you help them, you help murderers." Before Elena could answer, another signal came in. This time it was a Thrakari, shorter and covered in dark fur. "Human captain, do not listen to the Zalani. Lies. They started this war, they killed our children, we only defend ourselves." Elena had heard the same arguments on dozens of worlds. Everyone thought they were right. Everyone thought the other side was evil. That's why wars never ended. "This is Captain Vasquez of the Earth Medical Service," she said, her voice calm and clear. "We don't take sides in wars. We only help the wounded. Any soldier from any side who needs medical care will get it. That's our law, and that's our promise." Both aliens started to argue, but Elena cut the transmission. "Take us down, to the largest city," she told her pilot. "We'll set up our field hospital there." The Hippocrates landed in what had once been a beautiful city. Now half the buildings were broken, and smoke rose from fires that had been burning for days. Elena could see soldiers from both sides watching their ship nervously. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy, and many aliens still didn't trust them. Dr. James Park, the ship's chief medical officer, joined Elena as they watched the landing. "The local hospitals are full," he reported. "Both sides have been bringing their worst cases here, hoping we can save them." "Then that's what we'll do," Elena said. "Get the medical teams ready and make sure everyone knows the rules." The rules were simple but strict. The Hippocrates would treat anyone who needed help. Soldiers had to leave their weapons outside the medical area. No fighting was allowed anywhere near the hospital ship. Anyone who broke these rules would be banned from getting help. Within an hour, the wounded started arriving. Zalani soldiers carried their friends on stretchers. Thrakari fighters limped in supporting each other. At first, the two sides glared at each other with hate. But inside the human medical station, something strange happened. When you're lying on a hospital bed, bleeding and scared, the person next to you doesn't look like an enemy anymore. They just look like someone else who's in pain. Elena walked through the medical tents, checking on her staff. Nurse Martinez was bandaging a young Thrakari soldier who couldn't have been more than 18 years old. In the next bed Dr. Kim was operating on a Zalani officer trying to save his damaged leg. The two patients were from armies that had been trying to kill each other that morning, but now they were just two people who needed help. "Captain," called Dr. Park, "we've got a problem." Elena hurried to the surgery tent. On the table was a Zalani child, maybe 10 years old, with terrible burns on her arms and face. Standing nearby was a Thrakari soldier with a bullet wound in his chest. Both needed immediate surgery, but the medical team only had one operating room ready. "Who do we save first?" asked Dr. Park. Elena looked at both patients. The soldier was older and stronger. He might survive longer without surgery, but the child was smaller and more fragile. In a human hospital on Earth, the choice would be easy. Children always came first. "Save the child," Elena said. "Start working on the soldier as soon as the second operating room is ready." The Thrakari soldier heard her words. He looked at the Zalani child, then at Elena. "Save the little one," he whispered. "I can wait." For 3 days, the crew of the Hippocrates worked without stopping. They saved Zalani and Thrakari, soldiers and civilians, adults and children. Word spread across the planet that the humans would help anyone. Slowly, something amazing began to happen. Soldiers from both sides started working together to bring wounded people to the human ship. They shared water and food while waiting for treatment. Some even started talking to each other instead of fighting. On the 4th day, Elena was in her quarters writing her daily report to Earth when Lieutenant Torres called her to the bridge. "Captain, we're getting a transmission from space. It's not from either side on the planet." Elena hurried to the bridge. On the screen was an alien she had never seen before. He was large and powerful-looking, with dark green skin and fierce, yellow eyes. His uniform was black with silver decorations that showed high rank. "Human vessel," the alien said, his voice cold and angry. "I am Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Imperial Fleet. You are ordered to leave this system immediately." Elena felt her heart sink. The Hegemony was the largest and strongest empire in this part of the galaxy. They ruled over hundreds of worlds and thought they owned everything. If they wanted the Kepler system, there would be another war. "Admiral, this is Captain Vasquez. We are a medical ship operating under galactic law. We have wounded patients on board who cannot be moved." "I do not care about your patients," Zektar replied. "The Hegemony is bringing order to this system. Your presence interferes with our operations. Leave now or face the consequences." Elena looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at the screen with worried faces. They all knew what the Hegemony was capable of. Their ships were huge and their weapons could destroy entire cities. "Admiral, we need 48 hours to stabilize our critical patients. Then we'll leave." "You have 6 hours," Zektar said. "Do not test my patience, human." The transmission ended, leaving Elena and her crew in silence. 6 hours wasn't enough time. Some of their patients would die if they were moved too soon. Elena made her choice. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them what's happening here. Then get me a channel to Admiral Zektar." When the Imperial Admiral appeared on screen again, Elena stood straight and looked him in the eye. "Admiral, we cannot leave in 6 hours. We have patients who will die if we move them. We're asking for more time." Zektar's eyes grew even colder. "Humans," he said with disgust. "You think your weakness makes you noble. You think everyone will protect you because you play doctor. Today you learn how wrong you are." The transmission ended. Elena turned to her crew. "All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation. Get the patients ready to move. Send a distress signal on all frequencies." She hoped someone would help them. But deep down, she knew they were alone. Admiral Zektar stood on the command bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Domination, watching the small human ship on his displays. The medical vessel looked like a toy compared to his massive warship. His fleet consisted of 47 ships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The humans had one small hospital ship with no weapons. "Sir, the human ship is broadcasting medical identification codes," reported his communications officer. "They're also sending distress signals to anyone who will listen." Zektar laughed, a harsh sound that made his crew nervous. "Let them call for help. Who would dare to stand against the hegemony for the sake of a few humans?" The Admiral had spent his life conquering worlds for the Empire. He had destroyed rebellions, crushed resistance movements, and brought dozens of species under Imperial rule. In his experience, most aliens were cowards who would surrender rather than fight. Humans were supposed to be the worst of all, weak creatures who preferred talking to fighting. "Admiral," said Commander Vex, his second-in-command, "the humans are operating under galactic medical laws. If we attack them, other species might object." Zektar turned to face his subordinate. Commander Vex was younger and sometimes worried too much about politics. "Other species will do nothing," Zektar said firmly. "They fear us too much to complain about one small ship. Besides, we can always claim the humans were helping our enemies." On the tactical display, Zektar could see the Zalani and Thrakari forces on the planet below. Both sides had been fighting for years, but neither was strong enough to win. The hegemony planned to conquer both groups and add their worlds to the Empire. It would be easy once the fighting stopped. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the human ship," the communications officer announced. The main screen showed the human captain again. She was a small woman with dark hair and calm eyes. She didn't look afraid, which surprised Zektar. Most species showed fear when facing Imperial ships. "Admiral Zektar, this is Captain Vasquez. We have 43 patients on board who cannot survive transportation. I'm requesting a temporary ceasefire under galactic medical protocols. We need time to stabilize them before we can leave." Zektar studied the human woman. She spoke clearly and politely, but she wasn't begging. That annoyed him. When he gave orders, he expected immediate obedience. "Captain Vasquez, you seem to misunderstand the situation. This is not a negotiation. The hegemony does not make deals with minor species. You will leave now, or your ship will be destroyed." The human captain was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, we're doctors. We've saved lives on both sides of this conflict. Attacking a medical ship violates every law of civilized warfare." "Civilized warfare?" Zektar repeated the words with amusement. "There is no such thing. There is only strength and weakness. The strong take what they want. The weak suffer and die. Humanity chose to be weak when you became doctors instead of warriors." Captain Vasquez stared at him through the screen. "We chose to save lives instead of taking them. That doesn't make us weak." "Yes, it does," Zektar replied. "Your own actions. Prove it. You have no weapons. You cannot defend yourselves. You depend on others to protect you. That is the definition of weakness." The human captain straightened her shoulders. "We're not leaving until our patients are stable. That's final." Zektar felt his anger rising. No one defied his orders. No one refused his commands. "Then you have chosen death," he said coldly. "Do not blame me for your foolishness." The transmission ended. Zektar turned to his weapons officer. "Target the human ship. Prepare to fire." "Sir," Commander Vex said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider. Attacking a medical ship might cause political problems." Zektar stared at his second-in-command. "Commander Vex, are you questioning my orders?" "No, sir. I'm just suggesting that we might want to think about the consequences." "The only consequence will be that other species learn what happens when they disobey the hegemony," Zektar said. "The humans have made their choice. Now they will face the results." The Admiral looked at his tactical display. The human ship was still broadcasting medical codes, still asking for help. Several alien ships in nearby systems had received the distress signal, but none were coming to help. Just as he had predicted, no one wanted to fight the hegemony over one small medical ship. "Admiral," the communications officer said, "we're detecting transmissions from the human ship to Earth. They're reporting our presence and requesting instructions." How? Long until Earth receives the message? About 6 hours, sir. But Earth is very far away. Even if they send help immediately, it won't arrive for several days. Zektar nodded. That was plenty of time to complete his mission and move on. The humans would be dead, and Earth would learn that their children were not safe anywhere in the galaxy. Sir, the human ship is moving, reported the navigation officer. They're positioning themselves between our fleet and the planet. Zekatar looked at the display in disbelief. The tiny medical ship had moved directly into his line of fire. If he attacked the planet now, he would have to go through them first. Are they trying to protect the planet? Asked Commander Vex. It appears so, Zektar said slowly. How interesting. The humans think their little ship can stop us. He opened a channel to the human vessel. Captain Vasquez, move your ship aside. You cannot protect everyone. Do not make your death meaningless. The human captain appeared on screen again. This time she was standing on what looked like a hospital ward. Behind her, Zektar could see injured aliens lying in beds, both Zalani and Thrakari. Medical staff moved between the patients, checking on their condition. Admiral, these people trusted us to help them. We're not going to abandon them because you've decided to start another war. You cannot stop us, Zektar said. Your ship has no weapons. You will die for nothing. Maybe, Captain Vasquez replied, but at least we'll die doing what's right. Zektar ended the transmission and turned to his crew. The humans want to be martyrs. Let's give them what they want. All ships, prepare to attack. Target the medical vessel first. Sir, said the weapons officer, our sensors show the human ship contains no military equipment. It really is just a hospital ship. That's what makes this lesson so perfect, Zektar explained. When we destroy a ship full of doctors, every species in the galaxy will understand that the hegemony shows no mercy to anyone. Fear is more useful than respect. The Admiral looked at the human ship one more time. It was small and defenseless, but it hadn't run away. The crew was willing to die for their patients. In other circumstances, Zektar might have respected such courage, but respect was a luxury he couldn't afford. The hegemony maintained control through strength and fear. Showing mercy to humans would be seen as weakness. All ships, weapons charged and ready, reported the tactical officer. Fire, Zektar commanded. 47 Imperial warships opened fire at the same time. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the small medical vessel. The human ship's shields lasted exactly 3 seconds before failing completely. The hull began to break apart as explosions tore through the medical. Ward's Zektar watched the destruction on his screen. He could see the human ship trying to send one final message, but the transmission was cut off when the communications array exploded. Within 30 seconds, the Hippocrates was nothing but burning debris floating in space. Target destroyed, sir, the weapons officer reported. Excellent, Zektar said. Now send a message to both sides on the planet. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender, or we'll destroy their cities. As his fleet moved toward the planet, Zektar felt satisfied. The humans had learned a valuable lesson about the cost of defying the hegemony. Their death would serve as a warning to other species who might think about interfering with Imperial business. He had no way of knowing that in destroying one small medical ship, he had awakened something that had been sleeping in the darkness of space for 300 years. He had no idea that Earth's peaceful exterior hid weapons and warriors that could turn his mighty fleet into space dust. Most importantly, Admiral Zektar had never learned the most dangerous thing about humans. They never forgot and they never forgave when someone hurt the innocent. The message reached Earth at exactly 14:27 Universal Time. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen was in her office at Luna Command when the emergency alert sounded. For a moment, she thought it might be another drill. Then she saw the priority code, and her blood ran cold. Admiral, we have an urgent transmission from the Kepler system, her aide reported over the intercom. It's from the Hippocrates. Sarah activated her main screen. Captain Vasquez appeared, but the image was broken and filled with static. In the background, Sarah could hear alarms and people shouting, "This is the Hippocrates! We are under attack!" By Imperial forces. Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony. We followed all protocols. They're firing on a medical ship. The transmission cut to black. Sarah stared at the empty screen, not believing what she had just heard. Someone had attacked a medical ship. Someone had killed doctors. "Get me Fleet Command," she ordered. "Emergency meeting in 10 minutes. Alert all department heads." Within the hour, the video of the attack reached Earth. A monitoring station near. Kepler-7 had recorded everything. Sarah watched the footage 3 times, each viewing making her angrier. The Hippocrates had been clearly marked as a medical vessel. It had been broadcasting identification codes. It had been protecting patients. None of that had mattered to Admiral Zektar. The Galactic Council responded quickly. Their message was polite and full of pretty words that meant nothing. They expressed deep concern about the regrettable incident and promised to investigate the matter thoroughly. They suggested that all parties should work together to prevent future misunderstandings. Sarah deleted the message without finishing it. She had heard the same empty promises after every atrocity. The Council only cared about keeping peace with the strong. They never protected the weak. The Hegemony's response was even worse. They claimed the Hippocrates had been carrying weapons. They said the human ship had been helping terrorists. They insisted that Admiral Zektar had acted in self-defense. Sarah knew they were lying. She had reviewed the Hippocrates manifest herself. The ship had carried medicine, surgical equipment, and food supplies. The only weapons on board had been small arms for security, not enough to threaten a child, let alone an Imperial fleet. "Admiral," her aide announced, "the President is calling." President Harrison appeared on Sarah's screen. He looked tired and angry. "Sarah, I've been watching the news reports. Every channel in human space is showing the attack. People are demanding action." "What kind of action, sir?" "I don't know yet. The cabinet is meeting in an hour, but I need to know our military options. What can we do?" Sarah had been dreading this question. "Sir, in a conventional war, we can't win. The Hegemony has thousands of ships. We have maybe 200 active vessels, and most of those are explorers or cargo haulers. If we fight them directly, they'll destroy Earth." The President was quiet for a long moment. "So we do nothing? We let them get away with murdering our people?" "I didn't say that, sir. I said we can't win a conventional war." "What's the alternative?" Sarah looked at the classification codes on her computer. Some files had been sealed for so long that she had almost forgotten they existed. "Mr. President, I need your authorization to access some very old records. Project Deep Sleep." President Harrison frowned. "I've never heard of Project Deep Sleep." "Most people haven't, sir. It was classified above your level until now. I'm sending you the access codes." Sarah waited while the president reviewed the files. She watched his expression change from confusion to surprise to amazement. "My God," he whispered. "How many ships are we talking about?" 47 active vessels, sir, plus support ships and supply depots. They've been maintained by automated systems for 3 centuries. "Why didn't anyone tell me about this?" "Because we hoped we'd never need them, sir. Those ships were built during the colony wars, when humanity was fighting for survival. When we made peace with our neighbors, we decided to hide the fleet instead of destroying it, just in case." The president studied the technical specifications. "These weapons, they're not legal under galactic law." "No, sir, they're not. We designed them before we signed the warfare treaties. They use technologies that are now banned. Could they win against the Hegemony?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "In a straight fight? Probably not. The Hegemony still has more ships. But these aren't ordinary warships, sir. They were built by people who thought humanity might go extinct. They were designed to make our enemies afraid to attack us." The president was quiet for several minutes. Sarah could see him struggling with the decision. Finally, he looked up at the camera. "Admiral, do you believe Admiral Zektar will attack other human ships?" "Yes, sir. The hegemony rules through fear. They'll see the attack on the Hippocrates as a successful test. If we don't respond, they'll think we're too weak to fight back. And if we do respond, then they'll learn that we're not as peaceful as we seem." The president nodded slowly. "Admiral Chen, you have my authorization to activate Project Deep Sleep, but I want it clear that this is defensive action only. We're not starting a war. We're ending one." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Understood, sir. I'll begin activation immediately." After the president signed off, Sarah sat alone in her office for several minutes. Then she opened the sealed communication channel that hadn't been used in over 300 years. "Luna Command, to Deep Sleep Stations," she transmitted. "Authorization code Alpha Omega 779. Project Deep Sleep is now active. Repeat, Project Deep Sleep is now active." Across the solar system, machines that had been sleeping began to wake up. In the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards started bringing ancient vessels back to life. On the dark side of the moon, weapons that could crack planets began charging their power systems. In the outer system, ships larger than cities emerged from camouflaged stations. The fleet that began assembling was not like anything the galaxy had seen before. These ships had been built during humanity's darkest hour, when every human colony was under attack and Earth itself was threatened. They carried names like Vengeance, Retribution, and Righteous Fury. Their hulls were black as space, and their weapons could turn asteroids into dust. Sarah's aide entered her office carrying a datapad. "Admiral, the activation signals have been acknowledged. Deep Sleep Fleet reports ready status in 72 hours. Good. Send a message to Admiral Zektar. Tell him that humanity demands the immediate surrender of all personnel involved in the attack on the Hippocrates. Give him 24 hours to respond. And if he refuses?" Sarah looked out her office window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Admiral Zektar thought he had won an easy victory. He thought humans were weak because they chose to heal instead of hurt. He was about to learn how wrong he was. "If he refuses," Sarah said quietly, "then we remind the galaxy why humanity survived when stronger species fell." The aide left to send the message. Sarah remained at her window, watching the stars. In a few days, some of those stars would be battlefields. Ships would burn, and people would die. She wished there was another way, but the hegemony had made their choice when they fired on a medical vessel. 300 years ago, humanity had built the Deep Sleep Fleet to protect their children. Now those children were grown, and it was time to use their inheritance. Admiral Zektar had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, he was about to learn one himself. The most dangerous enemy wasn't the one who started fights. It was the one who finished them. Earth was awake, and Earth was angry. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when someone threatened humanity's healers. It would not be pleasant. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching displays that showed the awakening of humanity's hidden fleet. All around her, officers worked at stations that hadn't been active for 3 centuries. The Deep Sleep Project was coming back to life, and with it, the true military power of Earth. "Status report," Sarah ordered. Commander Martinez looked up from her console. "Deep Sleep Station Alpha reports full activation. The Leviathan-class ships are coming online. Now!" Station Beta shows ready status on all Titan-class carriers. Station Gamma is still running system checks, but they'll be ready within the hour. Sarah nodded. The names meant nothing to most people, but she had studied the old records. During the Colony Wars, when humanity was fighting for survival against multiple alien empires, Earth's best engineers had built ships that could win against impossible odds. When peace came, those ships had been hidden away, maintained by robots. waiting for the day they might be needed again. That day had come. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "We're receiving a response from Admiral Zektar." Sarah wasn't surprised. The Hegemony Admiral had probably expected humans to send angry messages and empty threats. He was about to learn that Earth's response would be very different. The main screen showed Admiral Zektar on the bridge of his flagship. He looked confident and amused, as if he was enjoying himself. "Admiral Chen," he said with mock politeness, "I received your message demanding my surrender. I must say, I'm impressed by human courage. Or perhaps I should say, human stupidity." Sarah kept her expression calm. "Admiral Zektar, you attacked a medical vessel in violation of galactic law. You killed doctors who were trying to save lives. Surrender now, and you'll be given a fair trial." Zektar laughed. "A fair trial? From humans? You have no authority to judge anyone. You are a minor species that exists only because stronger races allow it. The hegemony rules this part of the galaxy, not Earth. The hegemony rules through fear and violence," Sarah replied. "That ends now." "Really?" Zektar's eyes gleamed with amusement. "And how exactly do you plan to stop us? Your fleet is tiny. Your weapons are outdated. You've spent so much time playing doctor that you've forgotten how to fight." Sarah smiled, and something in her expression made Zektar's confidence waver slightly. "Admiral, you're right about one thing. Most humans have forgotten how to fight, but some of us remember." "What are you talking about?" 300 years ago, when humanity first reached the stars, we faced enemies who wanted to destroy us completely. We fought species that had been warriors for thousands of years. We won because we were more desperate and more creative than our enemies. When peace came, we chose to become healers and explorers. But we never forgot how to be warriors. Zektar's amusement was turning to irritation. "Empty words, Admiral. You have no power to threaten the hegemony." "We'll see," Sarah said. "You have 12 hours to surrender. After that, we come for you." She cut the transmission and turned to her staff. "Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for departure." On screens around the command center, Sarah watched humanity's secret weapons come to life. The first ships to emerge were the Leviathan-class dreadnoughts. Each one was over a kilometer long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their hulls were made of materials that could absorb energy weapons, and their armor could stop projectiles. Moving at near light speed, behind the dreadnoughts came the Titan-class carriers. These massive ships carried hundreds of fighters and bombers. But these weren't ordinary spacecraft. During the colony wars, human pilots had developed tactics that other species called insane. They would ram enemy ships, fight at ranges where their own weapons could damage them, and attack fleets 10 times their size. The last ships to emerge were the most dangerous. The Kraken-class destroyers were smaller than the other vessels, but they were built for one purpose: to kill enemy ships as quickly and efficiently as possible. They carried weapons that had been banned by every galactic treaty. Their crews were trained to show no mercy and take no prisoners. "Admiral," Commander Martinez reported, "all deep sleep vessels are now active. Fleet total, 47 primary combat ships plus support vessels and supply ships." Sarah studied the tactical display. It was an impressive fleet, but she knew it wasn't enough to conquer the hegemony. That wasn't the plan anyway. This wasn't about conquest. This was about justice. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. When the communication link was established, Sarah found herself looking at screens showing the commanders of humanity's hidden fleet. Some were young officers who had been chosen for this mission years ago. Others were veterans who remembered the old wars. All of them looked determined. "Captains," Sarah began, 3 days ago, the hegemony attacked and destroyed a medical ship. 847 people died, including doctors, nurses, and patients from 2 different species. The attackers have refused to surrender or face justice." She paused, letting the words sink in. The ship that was destroyed was the Hippocrates. It was on a mission of mercy, treating wounded from both sides of a planetary war. The crew followed all medical protocols. They were clearly marked as non-combatants. None of that mattered to Admiral Zektar. Sarah's voice grew harder. For 3 centuries, humanity has chosen the path of peace. We've been healers, explorers, and diplomats. We've tried to make the galaxy a better place through knowledge and compassion. That choice was not weakness. It was strength. The ship commanders listened intently. These were people who had volunteered for a mission they hoped they would never have to carry out. But when someone attacks our healers, when someone murders our doctors, that choice is taken away from us. Admiral Zektar thinks humanity is weak because we chose medicine over warfare. He's about to learn that we're dangerous precisely because we understand the value of life. Sarah looked at each commander in turn. We're not going to conquer the hegemony. We're not going to start a war of expansion. We're going to find the people who killed the crew of the Hippocrates, and we're going to make sure they can never hurt anyone else again. Captain Williams of the dreadnought Righteous Fury spoke up. Admiral, what are our rules of engagement? Any hegemony ship that fires on us or refuses to surrender will be destroyed. Any ship that attempts to surrender will be accepted. We're not here to commit genocide. We're here to deliver justice. And if other hegemony fleets come to help Admiral Zektar, Sarah's smile was cold. Then they'll learn the same lesson he's about to learn. Attacking human medical ships has consequences. The fleet began moving toward the edge of the solar system. As they traveled, Sarah reviewed the intelligence reports about Admiral Zektar's force. 47 hegemony ships against 47 human ships. It should be an even fight, except that the hegemony had never faced anything like the deep sleep. Fleet. Admiral, Lieutenant Park called out, we're receiving transmissions from other species. The Galactic Council wants to mediate. The Zalani government is offering to negotiate. Even some hegemony worlds are asking us to reconsider. Tell them all the same thing, Sarah replied. Humanity appreciates their concern, but this matter is between us and Admiral Zektar. Any ship that interferes will be treated as hostile. As the fleet reached the jump point that would take them to Kepler system, Sarah thought about Captain Vasquez and her crew. They had died trying to save lives. They had followed every law and protocol. They had trusted that their medical status would protect them. That trust had been betrayed in the worst possible way. Now it was time to restore the balance. All ships, Sarah announced, jump to Kepler system. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity's mercy has limits. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it 3 centuries of accumulated anger and the promise of justice for the innocent dead. Admiral Zektar was about to discover that attacking human doctors was the worst mistake of his life. Admiral Zektar was enjoying his breakfast when the alarm started screaming. He had been reading reports from the conquered planet below, pleased with how quickly both alien species had surrendered after watching the human medical ship burn. The destruction of the Hippocrates had sent exactly the message he wanted. The hegemony would tolerate no interference. Admiral to the bridge, his communications officer announced urgently. We have incoming ships. Zektar walked calmly to the command center, expecting to see a few human vessels arriving too late to help their dead colleagues. What he saw on the tactical display made him stop breathing for a moment. 47 ships were emerging from hyperspace. But these weren't the small exploration vessels or cargo haulers he knew humans used. These ships were massive, dark, and clearly built for war. The largest one was bigger than his own flagship. Identification? He demanded. Unknown, sir, his sensor officer replied nervously. The ships don't match any design in our database, but they're broadcasting human identification codes. Zektar stared at the display. That's impossible. Humans don't have warships like that. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. The main screen activated, showing a human woman in a military uniform Zektar had never seen before. She was older than Captain Vasquez had been, with gray hair and cold eyes that reminded him of a predator studying its prey. "Admiral Zektar," the woman said, her voice calm and professional. "I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to surrender your fleet immediately." Zektar recovered from his shock and laughed. "Admiral Chen, I don't know where you found those ships, but you're still outnumbered. I have 47 vessels to your 47. This will be an even fight." "No," Admiral Chen replied. "It won't." Before Zektar could ask what she meant, his tactical officer shouted a warning. "Admiral, the human ships are launching fighters." Hundreds of small craft poured out of the human carriers. But these weren't ordinary fighters. They moved faster than anything Zektar had ever seen, and their weapon signatures were completely unknown. "All ships, battle stations," Zektar ordered. "Prepare to engage the human fleet." "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "the humans are using energy frequencies that our shields can't deflect. Our defensive systems weren't designed for those weapons." Zektar felt the first touch of real fear. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir. These weapons don't exist in any galactic database." On the main screen, Admiral Chen was still watching him. "Admiral Zektar, you attacked a medical ship. You killed doctors and patients. You murdered people who were trying to save lives. This is your last chance to surrender." "Never," Zektar snarled. "The hegemony does not surrender to inferior species. All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human fleet." The hegemony ships moved forward, their weapons charging. Zektar was confident that even with strange weapons, the humans couldn't win. His crews were experienced warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. The battle began when Admiral Chen's flagship fired a single shot. The energy beam hit one of Zektar's cruisers and cut through it like a knife through paper. The ship exploded in a ball of flame that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. "Impossible," Zektar whispered. "No weapon can penetrate our armor that easily." His fleet opened fire, sending hundreds of energy bolts and missiles toward the human ships. The humans' defensive systems activated, creating energy fields that absorbed or deflected every attack. Then, the human fleet fired back. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration of what happened when a peaceful species decided to stop being peaceful. The human ships moved like they were alive, dodging attacks and striking back with weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Their fighters swarmed around hegemony vessels like angry insects, hitting weak points with impossible accuracy. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from our own ships. The destroyer Iron Fist has lost main power. The cruiser Dark Victory is requesting permission to abandon ship." Zektar watched his fleet being torn apart. In 15 minutes, he had lost 12 ships. The humans had lost none. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. Commander Vex, his second-in-command, was studying the tactical displays with amazement. "Sir, I think these ships are older than ours, much older. The technology is primitive by current standards, but it's also completely different from anything we know how to fight." "What do you mean?" "Our shields are designed to stop modern weapons. Our armor is built to resist current technology. But these human ships are using weapons that haven't been seen for centuries. Our defenses are useless against them." Zektar realized the truth. The humans hadn't built these ships recently. They had been hiding them for hundreds of years, waiting for someone to give them a reason to use them. Another explosion lit up the view screen as 2 more hegemony ships died. The human fleet was moving closer, and Zektar could see that several of their largest ships were targeting his flagship. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "Admiral Chen is requesting to speak with you." "Put her on screen." The human admiral appeared again. Behind her, Zektar could see the bridge of her ship. It looked ancient but well-maintained, and the crew was working with the efficiency of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Admiral Zektar," Chen said, "half your fleet is destroyed or surrendering." Your remaining ships can't penetrate our defenses. This fight is over. I will never surrender to humans, Zektar replied. Admiral Chen nodded sadly. I was afraid you'd say that. You see, Admiral, when you destroyed the Hippocrates, you made a serious mistake. You thought attacking a medical ship would make other species fear you. Instead, you woke something that has been sleeping for 300 years. What are you talking about? These ships were built during the colony wars when humanity was fighting for survival against enemies who wanted to wipe us out completely. We won those wars, Admiral. We won them against species that had been warriors for thousands of years. When peace came, we chose to become healers instead of conquerors, but we never forgot how to fight. Zektar's flagship shuddered as human. Weapons hit its hull. His shields were failing, and his weapons couldn't even scratch the human ships. The crew of the Hippocrates died because they believed in healing, Admiral Chen continued. They thought their medical status would protect them. You proved them wrong. So now you get to meet the humans who don't believe in mercy. You can't do this, Zektar protested. Other species will unite against you. The galaxy will see you as monsters. The galaxy will see us as people who protect our healers, Chen replied. And they'll remember that attacking human medical ships has consequences. Explosions rocked Zektar's bridge as the human fleet concentrated their fire on his flagship. Emergency lights flashed, and he could hear his crew shouting damage reports. Admiral, Commander Vex said urgently, we have to surrender. The ship is breaking apart. Zektar looked around his dying bridge. Through the smoke and sparks, he could see the faces of his crew. They were afraid, and they were looking to him to save their lives. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zektar realized he had made a mistake he couldn't fix with threats or violence. He had awakened something in humanity that he didn't understand and couldn't defeat. Admiral Chen, he said, his voice shaking, I surrender. Too late, Chen replied coldly. You had your chance to surrender before the battle started. You chose to fight instead. Please, Zektar begged. My crew, they were following orders. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Your crew will be rescued and treated according to galactic law. But you, Admiral, killed doctors. You murdered healers. There are some crimes that can't be forgiven. The transmission ended. Zektar's flagship broke apart under the combined fire of 3 human dreadnoughts. In the escape pods that followed, hegemony survivors watched the rest of their fleet surrender or die. When the battle was over, Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and looked at the debris floating in space. 47 hegemony ships had become, 23 burning wrecks, and 24 prisoners. The human fleet hadn't lost a single vessel. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council wants to discuss new treaties. Several hegemony worlds are declaring independence, and we're getting requests from dozens of species asking for medical assistance. Chen nodded. Send a message to Earth. Tell them the mission is complete. Admiral Zektar is dead, and his fleet is destroyed. Justice has been served. She looked out at the stars, thinking about Captain Vasquez and her crew. They had died believing that their medical status would protect them. They had been wrong about that. But they had been right about something else. Healing was stronger than hurting. It just sometimes needed warriors to protect it. All ships, Admiral Chen announced, return to Earth. Our work here is done. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the galaxy began to understand a new truth. Humanity's 3 centuries of peace had not been weakness. It had been restraint, and when that restraint was broken by someone who attacked their healers, the consequences were swift and terrible. The Hippocrates had been avenged. Now the galaxy would remember.